Serious, when did the class clown go awry too far? Class clown decided he was going to rip a loud fart during the middle of a test and ended up shitting his pants on accident. I've always wanted to put on depends. Eat a gassy meal to save up a huge fart. And then ask somebody to pull my finger. Then I would slowly squeak out the fart. And just keep pushing it until I shat. I feel like with a good humored group it would be legendary. He put a hit of acid into our woodshop teacher's coffee. Fortunately, our woodshop teacher recognized the onset and immediately called into the office and said that he's leaving right now as he's feeling very unwell but will remain in class until a replacement arrives. We had a teacher fill in about 15 minutes and our woodshop teacher left. At lunch, we saw that his car was still parked in the parking lot. This was well before cell phones, so there's no way he called someone. Come to find out, he ran to a local park and waited out the storm as he realized that he was dosed with acid and that he was a teen in the 70s, so he knew. The next day, he taught class as normal and didn't mention it. He made weed brownies in culinary class that were distributed to teachers. Lots of blazed and very confused teachers that day. He got caught and had to pay a huge fine and serve like 3 weekends in jail. Meanwhile, someone in Austin brought weed brownies to school and was caught. The total weight of the brownies was counted as marijuana and when arrested he was facing life in prison. He would try to jump around, Parker style, desk to desk, all class long. Sometimes would fall comically, breaking things and falling in people, trying to get a laugh, constantly redirected for trying to do run flips on the wall, telling horrible jokes, or balance large objects on himself. He always wanted attention. We just wanted to learn beginning French. We all, including the teacher, took to ignoring him. One day he couldn't handle people not paying attention to him. So he tried to see if he, for the first time ever, could do a backflip. Landed on his neck. Was out of class for a long while. In 6th grade, 1991, our class clown put a tack on someone's chair. His victim screamed so loud that it startled everyone and the clown's laugh turned serious immediately. You're an arsehole, Derek. Pierced his ears in the middle of class, then used a pair of earrings he was given from the bottom of some random girl's purse. This all happened while the teacher was asleep. Another one hid a bunch of dead fish in the ceiling tiles the day before summer break. The school reeked for many months. Joking around how the class was shitty and he'd rather die, took off his tie and stood up in front of the class and pretended to hang himself. Teacher just came back to work from a long break after finding her son hanging in his room. None of us knew that's why she was off work, but I remember her face going white and just seeing her heart break all over again when he'd done that. Safe to say nobody even laughed and he was made to feel like utter shit. When he made fun of the quiet kid for crying in the back of class because he had a family member pass away and he turned up dead the day after hung in his room. My time to shine. One time in year 8, one of the class clowns stood up on his desk, pulled his trousers and underwear down and started swinging his DCK around shouting, anyone want a taste? The teacher called the head teacher and he got expelled from the school and now is known as Dick Swing Boy. I wish this was a joke but it's not. He called in a bomb threat and got in very big trouble. So many bomb threats at my school. As I don't live in the US, there were not many consequences for this. And the terrorist was usually in the class that had a math test that day. Without fail. He put laxatives in the teacher's coffee and she just went crazy. He ended up getting suspended and the teacher tried pressing criminal charges on him. He got kept back in class over break as a punishment for being too annoying. Or something along the lines of that. The teacher then needed to leave the class to go and photocopy something. And he got up and started messing around at her desk. When he saw her coming back into the room, he thought it would be funny to bolt over to the door and slam it as hard as he could on her hand. She broke 2 fingers and had a bad panic attack. He got suspended for 2 days and the school tried to press charges on him. Trolling a girl in the first class of the semester. She makes a comeback about comebacks and he uses the all-powerful comeback joke and she gives him the finger. He says, If that finger had balls you'd be pregnant. The teacher, with half a smile on his face, calmly says, dude, get the FCK out man. Double quote. In math class, we were watching a video on some material I already forget. And the video was around 2 minutes long. Once the video ends, the class clown says that video lasted about as long as your last marriage. MRS. T. MRS. T's husband had died a few days after their 1-year anniversary. High school trip to London. Finally boarding plane after many security stops after a bombing scare in the city. Get to our seat at he says yeah. We got a bomb on board. As a joke. Had to wait 4+ hours for team to search the plane. I've got one. 2 guys in my AP stats class who were always goofing off. Usually pretty funny. No victims. Etc. One day they, for some reason, decided to go in on a very smart, popular, relatively quiet girl. Just roasting everything she said. Would not let up. No matter how many times the teacher or other students were like okay chill. Finally one of them made a crack about how she was so sensitive because she'd probably been raped as a child. Whole class went silent. She burst into tears. From what I understand she had a good family life. So that probably did not happen to her. But it was clearly so upsetting to her that she ended up leaving class and going home for the day. So I mean, don't make f-king jokes about trauma to people when you don't know if they've actually experienced that kind of trauma. Threatened to bring a gun to school and shoot me. He brought a fake gun to school and chased me around with it. Oh wait. He got away with the stunt and everyone else thought it was funny. You all suck. We went on a trip to the country courthouse in Ottawa, Canada. And some kid put a pin on the Prime Minister's chair. He got arrested. The time that this happened was when this kid, we'll call him Billy, came back from the bathroom. We were told that we were getting a new student who had a little bit of autism. When Billy got word of that, he sat up and said, "Hey, teacher, we're getting an autistic kid, right?" The teacher nodded. Then Billy squatted and flailed his arms while wildly screeching. The whole class, including the teacher, was mortified. I'm just glad he got in trouble and couldn't go to recess. We were in 5th grade BTW. Recruiting most of the class via text to download a dog whistle app. So whenever the teacher called him out and took his phone away, someone else could do it and emit a high-pitched sound that was hard to tell where it was coming from, and his name would be cleared until he would do it again. This ending with tears on the teacher's side and went on for almost a week as the teacher was too kind for discipline, and eventually ended when the teacher left her job and chose a different field. This is 1999. It's been 6 months since Columbine. We're attending school about 40 miles away from Littleton. Lockdown drills just became a thing. Due to our proximity, ours involve the local police drilling alongside us, clearing rooms, etc, etc. Might just be publicity. Might not. We're all lined up against a wall in our dark as fuck room. And the class clown grabs a stapler off the desk. Snaps it open, so it's fully extended but not dumping staples. Then whips it against a kid's leg next to him, driving a staple into his kneecap. Of course the kid screams bloody f-king murder. 3 dudes in full tactical gear stream in. Take like 6 seconds to assess. Grab the class clown. Drag him out. Literally never saw the kid again. Don't know if he got sent to expulsion school or what. But he was like a ghost. You bet your ass we minded our P's and Q's during every lockdown drill after that. He was actually a friend. He and his GF had adult relations on a sports bus. We were all sitting there, thinking, what the absolute fuck? It was no secret that they were involved. But we were literally half an hour out. They could have waited and f-cared in the parking lot. And nobody would have seen or cared. Both were expelled. His father had a construction company. Good one. And he wound up there. And has done well. She moved states away. And I have no idea. He was pretty popular with the girls and at least a year older than everyone. We were on a school trip for a week. He ended up making a voice recording of them making sex sounds, moaning, groaning, rattling the closet door, and put it through a very loud Bluetooth speaker in front of random people's rooms. Too bad for him. A bunch of teachers were staying in that corridor as well. So, that didn't go well for him. Edit. We were all like 13 years old, he was 15. He did some even weirder shit later down the line. But that's not too class clowny. Two class clown boys in middle school tried to teach a mentally ill, male, student how to masturbate in the bathroom one day. The mentally ill boy's mother was a teacher and caught wind. And the two boys weren't seen for a while. Their lucky sexual assault charges weren't pressed. Last year one of my classmates poured hand sanitizer on his desk and set it on fire. I wish I was joking. A friend of mine, a true class clown, had heard that if you poured rubbing alcohol on yourself and lit it, you would not burn. Only the alcohol would. So, at a party, he poured alcohol all himself, lit it and started walking around like the mummy. It began to burn. He began to panic. Unfortunately adults were there and they put it and took him home to his mom, a nurse. He was covered with 1st and 2nd degree burns. For me it was that time he put a stun bee in the hood of my sweatshirt. People were laughing so I reached back there to see what it was and it stung me. Lucky me, I'm allergic to bees, so I got all FK'd up and had to spend the afternoon in the nurse's office. It was the first time I wore a hoodie to school too. Definitely didn't do that again, lol. Shoved a piece of eraser in his ear. Then again and again. Was taken by ambulance out of the classroom while screaming and crying. He lost his hearing in one ear and couldn't participate in gym for a while. He also couldn't sit down for a bit. Not sure if related. This was like early mid-90s. This girl in 4th or 5th grade just kept pushing the teacher until she finally just told the girl something like, "Fine. You want to run the class? Then it's the show, go ahead." So the girl went up in front of the classroom and sang and danced and yelled for 15 minutes to get everyone's attention. The teacher just went to the back of the room and wrote her up. He threw the foreign exchange student's backpack onto the roof of the school and then locked the window when the student went out after it. He wasn't class clown after that. But total asshole. Some of my upper school class clowns decided to key swastika symbols into the car of the German language teacher. She was always getting shitty about being German and teaching German language. Her classes were always a mess. Because of kids playing bomb, yelling bomb and everyone getting under the table, doing Tennessee salute, etc. She was pushed to tears on several occasions. But the car was the last straw and she ended up having a serious breakdown. She finished that school year, but afterwards left to teach at another school. I'm not sure if the students that did it were ever caught, or if anything happened to them. Ha hacked into our Catholic school's Twitter account and changed the location of the school to Nearland and tweeted to deport all Nears back to Africa and then posted interracial porn gifs all throughout the afternoon. He tweeted out Siga Heil, sick. It was kinda funny for a while cause they weren't his personal beliefs, he just wanted to post FK'd up stuff on a Catholic school Twitter page. This was until he started posting the nudes of girls who went there with their names attached. And some inappropriate upskirt shots he took of female teachers while he held his phone under their skirts while they answered questions of kids next to him. Needless to say he was expelled. Before some legal action from the girls. Made jokes about how the depressed kid's father raped his mother. Class clown instantly became an outcast when the person said their mom was dead and their dad was in the hospital. This wasn't at the school I went to. The students from my school had a city-wide reputation for being a bunch of theater kids, teachers' pets, and snobs. But a school one town over where I did a placement when I was 15. During those 3 weeks, some jokesters who were, apparently, the class clowns of their grade, decided to pour chocolate milk into the school's fish tank, which wasn't very big. This was on a Friday afternoon. But the teachers only found out about it Monday noon. By then, all the fish had died already. I can't tell you how the students in question were punished. That was handled privately. But it was decided that for the foreseeable future, there would be no more fish. It was like teacher review day. I can't remember the official name. And he poured a flammable solvent on a workbench during chem class and set it on fire. The teacher freaked. Put it out with a fire extinguisher. Everyone ended up in the powder stuff that came out of it, and the teacher told us not to tell anyone. He didn't get reviewed when we were there, but apparently he would be next period. Needless to say, the class clown got suspended. These two girls were always really mean to the German teacher and constantly pushing her buttons. One day, they broke into the German class trailer before school and covered everything with pads and tampons that had been colored to look like they were used. She didn't come back to school after Thanksgiving break. Made a torch out of pack of tissues impaled on a pencil and then lit up. He threw it in the unaware teacher writing on blackboard. Luckily he missed her head by about 1 foot. Then he ran up to the burning remains and stomped on it, putting it out. Acting like it wasn't him and asking loudly, "Who did this?" No one got informed. Teacher didn't knew who did it. None of classmates snitched him. He was clowning around in government class and in his infinite wisdom cracked some eggs and began hiding them in various places. The sugar container, other people's binders, and even in the goddamn toilet. 2003. This dude named Ryan brought a batch of weed lollipops to our school. Gave them to absolutely everyone, including teachers. If you think it was funny, then you're right. It did, however, ignite a shitstorm of super colossal proportions. The parents, teachers, cops, even the state government got involved. Cue up expulsion. I think the dude even went to juvie for a little bit. It created a clusterfuck. It was funny though. Kid put 2 full packs of intense laxatives into our teacher's coffee. She ended up going to the hospital and he was nearly arrested for poisoning and attempted murder. But got off with like 6 months of community service and was removed from the class. Not naming the people, so we're gonna call him Tommy. So Tommy convinced another kid, well, call him Timmy, to climb the roof in the boys' bathroom and look in the girls' bathroom, and Tommy pushed Timmy through the roof into the girls' bathroom. Timmy was fine except for a few bruises, but he got suspended and Tommy got expelled. My brother is a high school teacher. Back when we all used VHS, they watched a movie in class that they were supposed to finish watching in the morning. The class clown somehow got into the classroom and switched the tape to a butt sex porno cue to the last few strokes money shot, which was viewed by all. No individual moment. But our class clown so consistently raised his hand to ask stupid questions that our class was literally a few days to a week behind the other class that didn't have him in terms of getting through all the slideshows. The teacher literally made a rule that he could then only ask 1 question per day. Just before basketball regional or something, he took something like 20,000 silica balls and spread them in the gymnasium. Apparently those will react with your common floor lacquer, so they had to strip the entire floor and refinish it. I'm pretty sure he spent some time locked up for vandalism. I had a study hall where 75% of my class was the class clown. We were watched by the librarian, who was known to have a short temper, MRS. Shorstack. It was essentially their goal to give her an aneurysm for entertainment each class. They would always do something to piss her off, and before you knew it, half of the class was in the office. One day they started playing the Shostak game. Think the penis game, but screaming Shostak louder and louder instead of penis. By the end of it, kids were screaming Shostak at the top of their lungs while she was shrieking "Shut up, shut up, shut up," and threw herself on the ground crying. She was so pissed. Poor Shostak. Class clown got called out by the substitute teacher, who happened to be Jeffrey Dahmer's dad. In essence, he told him to control himself, and class clown fired back by saying, "Like you controlled your son." Audible gasp in classroom, and teacher sent him out of the room and took a minute to collect himself. My then science teacher had just had a miscarriage, and the kid, who was usually known as the class clown, knowing exactly what had just happened, made a dead baby joke. She ended up yelling at him and then broke down and cried in front of the class. He called in a bomb threat to get the day off school. We didn't even get to go home, but had to sit in the soccer field for half the day while they searched and found no bomb. Then we had to go back to class. People were taking turns at throwing things at the fan in class, and the objects kept on getting larger as time went on, with pencils, pencil cases and book bags being thrown. The class clown picked up a locker and legit just yeeted it at the fan, like 2 lockers on top of one another. By doing this he endangered like 4 kids sitting below the fan because the lockers didn't actually hit the fan. In 6th grade, the class clown at my school threw a lock from our lockers at the back of the teacher's head, and was an excellent markswoman, because she succeeded. Brought firecrackers to class. Teacher caught me right off the bat. She kept all confiscated items in a tall glass jar. Cool part was that at the end of the year she gave them back. This was in 5th grade. 7th grade, I ate a bunch of tamarind candy and would sometimes joke around to blurt stuff out. One of those times I started choking on the candy. I started coughing uncontrollably and I panicked. I jumped up and ran to the restroom. Puked in a urinal and I thought all was fine. Till I see a trail of puke running from my desk all the way to the restroom. Shirt covered in puke, etc. Kinda shitty tbh. I really think I had a good amount of ADHD. Not sure if I just learned to live with it or what. The class clown was my older brother. This took place while I was in elementary school, just a few months after 9/11. So everyone was really on edge. He stood up on the bus and shouted he could kill everyone on the bus with a bomb. He did not have a bomb. He went to juvie. About 6 years later he would convince a bunch of his high school peers to tear out a bus seat and throw it out of the back, while the bus was on a busy highway. He ended up jumping onto the field of the Phillies game and got tased. He then peed his pants and was on national TV. They wouldn't let him walk at graduation or go to prom. He was one of the nicest and funniest kids. He even got on Tosh. Oh, for that one. Rugby tackled a guy during tag or something. Might have been cops and robbers, IDK. It was a few years ago, and chipped both of the other guy's front teeth, taking massive chunks out of both. Needing the other guy to have surgery to get plasticish grafts on them to make them look normal again. Once again can't remember, and I didn't go into the hospital with him. TLDR, rugby tackled a guy and messed his front teeth up. This kid in my pay class last year had nicknamed Ethan the boy with Down syndrome as Eshvin. He had Eshvin hauling dumbbells across the gym due to the fact that he convinced Eshvin that he had a dumbbell hauling business. This lasted for about 40 minutes until the teacher realized what was happening. Eshvin is alright to this day. So we had this one teacher's aide that was pretty fat. Most of it was in her ass. She had probably the biggest ass I've ever seen. Not really in an attractive way, but just honestly a huge ass. One day she bends over close to the class clown. Big butt sticking up in the air. This guy proceeds to smack her ass as hard as he can. We were in 7th grade. The class was shook. It was so loud, and the look on her face after. Everyone was too scared to even laugh, but looking back it was hilarious. She screamed at him and was beat red in the face. He gets suspended and a strong talking to about how it's sexual harassment. Ect. The balls he had to do that still impress me today. Honestly, I used to be surprised by this, but now I wouldn't be surprised if every school had that one kid who would do Tennessee salute during a documentary about the Holocaust every time the teacher turned around. Class clown brought a flask inside of class. Proceeds to open said flask and drink from said flask as the teacher walks in. Teacher then runs out to get the VP. Student also runs out of the classroom, and in the process of trying to leave he drops his Vadal mayo. Edit. He dropped it and did not notice, so double whammy. Not the class clown, but one of them. The popular boy class clown was having an argument with another kid and decided to take his notebook and smash it on the floor. 4th grade, the class clown decided to hide under the teacher's desk before school started. Teacher walks in, sits down at her desk, and the kid says hi. Catches her so off guard that her heartbeat skips over itself and she nearly has to go to the hospital. When he said, "I don't know what slavery is," It sounds funny. Then he looked at his 2 African American friends smiling and giggling. We were 12 and had gone over slavery twice that school year. I chose to take history during the summer to get it out of the way. This kid named Hunter was the class clown. And it was amusing at first. Our teacher was also young. Around mid-20s. Very easygoing. They got into a joking light-hearted argument during class. Everyone was laughing. And Hunter throws his sharpened pencil across the room, hitting the teacher. Instant silence. He made the kid leave the room and talk to us for a long time about boundaries and respect. The kid barely spoke a word the rest of the summer. 1969. We had a guy that lived on the next street to mine. That made a bomb. It was made of old-fashioned ceramic drain pipe, filled with a type of black powder, and plugged on both ends. There was hole on one end where he'd place a lit cigarette as a fuse. He drove to the high school on Halloween night, set it in the middle of a grassy field and set it off. I lived about 1 mile away as the crow flies. I was handing out candy to kids as I heard a loud boom. Way off in the distance. The explosion blew out house windows for a couple blocks. I had friends that lived a few hundred yards away and they thought their own houses blew up. The police said on the news that they were surprised it didn't collapse the gymnasium. Also said that the gunpowder used could have gone off from a good bump in the car's trunk. It left a hole about 5 feet across and 3 feet down. All the grass about 10 feet out was sheared and laying on its side, like it popped out of the ground. The guy that did it got expelled. I heard he only lived another 10 years and had a tough life. Short as it was. When I was a freshman, the senior prank was to cover all the staircases in veggie oil at the end of one of the last school days of the year. People got severely injured, including a very pregnant teacher who ended up having to give birth after they fell. Not something really big, but still messed up. In middle school there was this kid with a mental illness, so he was slower than the majority and had tics, but he wasn't the crazy type. Just needed people to be kind to him. The class clown, for some reason, just hated him. There isn't really a way too far moment like others here, but one time the class clown threw the poor guy's backpack down the staircase, something like 2 stories. Sometimes he just insulted him or threw his stuff out the window. One time he even slapped him. Later we found out that the class clown had big family issues, but whatever. He just disappeared between the second and last year of middle school. When he started acting like a prostitute behind the teacher and he dances continuously. He's a boy by the way, and so is the teacher. The teacher turned around and caught him. He got a headbutt. I remember back in elementary school there was a kid known for his dark humor. I was actually good friends with him at the time. Until this happened. During a lockdown drill he screamed as loud as f***ing possible and said, "We're in here. Come get us." All while giggling during it. He got after school detention for the rest of the year. He put homemade stink bombs in the trash can inside the boys' locker room. It caught fire and we had to evacuate the whole building. He sadly committed suicide that summer because he had a really rough life with his foster parents. The dude brought laughter to a lot of us and it's still sad that he's gone. Not so much a class clown, but a lover of attention nonetheless. She came to school one day and at recess she's like, "Hey guys, I can make myself faint, check it out." So she does the thing when you kneel down and hold your breath and stand up. And then faint. So she fainted. Obviously. But then started having a seizure outer. And we were all like, what the fuck, and an ambulance came and it was all crazy. But, aftermath. She never really had seizures before, but then after that and all throughout high school she had mad seizures. I think I literally witnessed permanent brain damage. He started masturbating in class, which was not much of a big deal in our class cause me and some other guys have done it multiple times, but he took it a step further. He started doing it while the teacher was teaching, while walking around the class, and guess what, he got caught. First time teacher ignored him, probably out of embarrassment, but that MF was dumb enough to got caught again. This time teacher told him to get the F out of her class. Told other teachers and the class clown got in so much trouble for that. In high school the little shitty punched a special needs kid. I'm not sure why. But before I could even blink, me and another stranger had him on the ground. Proceeded to kick the living shit out of him before the cop and a few teachers pulled us off of him. After 3 weeks of suspension. Apparently the story was that the clown was the victim and that me and the stranger, who I ended up becoming very good friends with, were just bullying him. Not a single word of what he did to the special needs kid. Because the clown was really popular. We ended up becoming social outcasts to the point that I ended up leaving public for homeschooling. Had trust issues ever since. He called a girl's mother pretending to be the school and said she was caught watching porn. Her mother, being an African Christian woman, beat the living daylights out of the girl and came to school the next day looking like she was pushed down a flight of stairs. Dragged back up, then pushed down again. Open bracket. Also the day I quit pulling pranks on people. Somehow, this really cute girl, a large chest area, ended up in our science lab group of me and this other goofy guy. One day, she brings an overnight bag into class. She goes to the bathroom, and the goofy guy starts looking in her bag. Before I had a chance to register what was happening, he's putting on a pair of her panties over the top of his jeans. She comes back into class, and I run out the door. She and I were still friends after that, but she was never in our lab group again. We had this awesome substitute teacher. He and I talked about metal music a lot, which was rare for teachers at that time in my life. He was an overly feminine man. Everyone assumed he was gay, which is important because it was 2004 and it was a class of 14-15-year-olds who aren't known for their tolerance. He was a great teacher though and put up with a lot of shit from these dickheads. He was a great teacher though. One day, they set off fireworks in class. He thought someone had a gun. Took a panic attack. It was awful. I felt pretty bad. He didn't end up subbing at that school again. I remember a time in high school when the kid, some guy named Roland, ended up getting arrested for one prank. So, we had just finished history, chemistry, Spanish, and we were in algebra when he says, "When pay comes, I'ma give all my prank east." I was like, God. Ensure he don't do anything stupid. He mustn't have heard my prayer. Cause what happens next? We were playing dodgeball. And the coach was eating lunch at that time. And soon he hit the coach. He was like, "We gonna talk after this." So he bends down for the fork and soon Roland throws another dodgeball at him. But the fork rammed into a nearby electrical outlet and let's just say that was the last time I saw him. You should have seen him kicking and screaming as the cops hauled him away for unintended murder. The class clown was making fun of our history teacher when she said that before the planes hit. She got out and she was walking on the sidewalks and watched as the first plane hit. It took her 17 years to stop ducking when she heard planes flying when she was near her car or in a building. The class clown called her a PSSY and was laughing. Last year on a show who I bet thought he was hilarious threw a book at me. Yeah, he doesn't think he was so funny after realizing I'm not a fun guy to anger, mainly because I beat him with the book until I got sent to the office. Before you ask, no, I'm not an overly violent guy. He and his friend just always made fun of me for liking anime and I got tired of it. Middle school, when Chromebooks first became as popular teaching tool, I started using Crush to bypass the security measures and watch YouTube in class. Pretty soon I was leaving hotkeys and backdoors on kids' laptops for money. The principal caught on when this guy snitched, but the suspension I should have gotten was dropped because he was convinced it wasn't me. He called the front desk to make sure they sent him the right kid, lol. I was in the group of class clowns. One morning I decided to bring in noise poppers that sounded like small firecrackers. I handed them around to my friends and one decided to set one off in morning recess. The teachers freaked out and immediately started moving kids towards the building for fear of a shooter or bombing. My friends and I were laughing our asses off, so the teachers caught on pretty quick. We got called down and told how stupid we were, resulting in all of us getting suspended, and since I brought them in I was almost expelled. He put staples into the 8th grade science teacher's banana, and his family ended up getting sued and the kid almost got charged for assault. The teacher is a known pedophile. and is hated by everyone. That's probably the reason why the staple was put there. I was the class clown. Joked about how I was gonna shoot up the whole school. Had to attend to multiple psychologists, psychiatrists and have many tests done to prove the school I wasn't a psycho and it was safe to keep me around.